Hello everyone, Patron. In today's second video, going to have a look at weather next week to 10 days for today's second video. This will take us to the start of November, actually. We're going to be the beginning of the final month of the autumn of 2018 with this update. So, got some interesting weather on the way, some big contrast. It's going to be pretty warm in the next few days, where it's quite chilly today. It's going to get warmer again middle of the week. But then at the end of the week, we really are going to have a shot of proper cold air. The northerly we've got coming up, the way it's being modelled at the moment anyway, is pretty impressive even for like in the middle of winter. We are going to be pushing the true Arctic air down across the country over the weekend, so you really will feel the cold. It really will feel notably colder when we get to the end of the week and into the weekend. I'm unsure how long this is going to last as well. I'll tell you why when we get to the models. It may just be a short, sharp cold snap, but it is possible that after the northerly, because we won't sustain that northerly very long, it's too early in the year for that, but it may be that after the northerly, we might build in some high pressure. We might even have a go at getting that high pressure up to Scandinavia, and if that happens, then well, we won't keep the temperatures as cold as they will be at the weekend, but we may keep generally quite cool conditions going into the start of November, certainly from a frost type perspective. So I'll talk you through everything that's going on very shortly. But we're going to start off saying a big thank you to the latest patrons and donors for Gav's Weather. So we've got 3 new patrons for Gav's Weather Vids. We're now up to 37 patrons. We are getting ever closer to that magic number 40 in terms of patrons for Gav's Weather Vids. So I'm going to say a big thank you to our latest patrons. We've got Stephanie Hodge. Big thank you to Stephanie, and also to Harvey Cooper. So a big thank you to Harvey, and a big thank you to John Penman as well. So Stephanie, Harvey and John have become Gav's Weather Vids' latest patrons. As well as the 3 new patrons, we have had a new donor for Gav's Weather Vids as well via the Gav's Weather Vids PayPal page. This is it. And I'm going to say big thank you to William Kinnison. Big thank you to William for becoming Gav's Weather Vids' latest PayPal donor. So if you would like to become a patron or a donor for Gav's Weather Vids, there's 2 ways you can do it. First of all, in terms of Patreon. So this is the Gav's Weather Vids Patreon page. Just come here, sign up for a Patreon account. This is kind of like an ongoing monthly donation, although of course you can cancel it at any time. But the idea with this is that it's an ongoing sort of monthly donation. You make a donation of anything from $1 a month upwards, so it doesn't have to be a large amount of money. And by doing that, you become a patron for Gav's Weather Vids, just like Stephanie, Harvey and John have done. Alternatively, there is the PayPal page, so if you'd just like to make a one-off donation, again, it can be any amount of money you would like, and if you would like to do that, well, you just sign into your PayPal account, and most people have got one of those these days, so you sign into your PayPal account, and then you can donate whatever, make whatever donation you would like, and by doing that, you can become a donor for Gav's Weather Vids. So again, a big thank you to Stephanie Hodge, to Harvey Cooper, to John Penman, and to William Kinnison for becoming the latest donors and patrons. So it's a big thank you to all of our donors and patrons. It really is something very special that you are doing for the website. You're helping us to fund the website, keep the website completely free of charge, and keep the updates completely free as well. We're primarily ads funded and will be remaining, so not going to be going behind paywalls or anything like that. And if you make a donation, you will get a shout out in the videos where you get a mention and a thank you for doing that, unless you would rather stay anonymous. And if that's the case, then please let us know with your donation. So again, big thank you to all of the donors, all the patrons, Gav's Weather Vids, and yeah, really something very special that you are doing for the website. Right, so let's have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days then. I'm going to start off with the 500 millibar high anomaly flowcharts from Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which I'll have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, and the area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. So we find that in the 7 to 10 day time frame, which as I say takes us into the start of November, we have above average heights out in the Atlantic, also a blocking signal up to the north, kind of like around the Norwegian Sea, going up to the north of Scandinavia, and some above average heights across eastern parts of Europe as well. In between, we've got this big trough centred over, and a little bit to the south of the country, the jet stream is in that sort of position, so that is a real trough within the 500 millibar flow. And the jet stream, we're actually on the cold side of the jet stream, although not quite that straightforward, because actually, as the jet kind of like dips and then rises northwards, we do pull up some relatively mild air from the south or the southeast, but with that trough just to our south, it would be very unsettled as well. That's all after the cold snap, of course. The GFS is very similar, so again, this is how the GFS is looking. Identical, really, in terms of the broad setup. We've got the above average heights to our north as a blocking feature up there, also across eastern parts of Europe and in the middle of the Atlantic too. We've got the below average heights over and to the south of the UK. We're dipping down the jet stream rather like that, and then pushing it back northwards again. It looks cool and unsettled, that. It looks like you would get quite a bit of rain out of that in the very opening days of November. And the jet stream's in a funny position because we are on the cool side of the jet stream, but as it rises northwards, it will probably bring some quite warm air up from southern climes. But that could all be to our east, actually. We may just finish up cold and wet as we go into the opening days of November. The main thing, though, is the way the trough of the jet stream is digging southwards. That blocking feature is up to the north. If that continues through November, then we could be in line for quite a cold November. These are the GFS temperature and precipitation samples for the next couple of weeks. Looking at London today, the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. So in the next couple of days, temperatures are going to be going up. It's pretty chilly today, but Tuesday, Wednesday, going to be really quite mild days. Thursday, even Thursday in the south will be quite a mild day. We'll be starting to turn a bit colder in the north on Thursday. And then we get the drop in the temperature. Friday through to weekend, going cold, taking those upper air temperatures very close to -5 at 850 HPA, which is a real cold Arctic plunge for this time of the year, for October. That is very, very cold, really, indeed. Beyond that, we go into the opening days of November. So that's the 1st of November. Just there, it's kind of like the first week of November, if you like. And the temperature ensembles then are very close to average. So they are lifting back up again. They're recovering from that really dramatic fall that's taking place at the end of week and over weekend. But they're only going back close to average. And even then, there are quite a few ensemble members, actually, that are keeping things pretty cool. Also looks like it's turning more unsettled as well, so a lot of dry weather to come until the weekend. Then gradually the precipitation spikes are increasing over the weekend. That's mainly down to showers. They could be wintry showers across the northern parts of the country in particular. And then we go through into the start of November, and it is an increasingly unsettled signal then, with some rather large rainfall spikes beginning to appear. That's as that low pressure and the jet stream is kind of like digging southwards of the UK, turning increasingly unsettled, perhaps at that point. Temperature anomalies for the next week, going from the 22nd to the 30th of October, are forecast to be cooler than average. We haven't seen this for a very long time, but we do see that in the week ahead, temperature anomalies are being forecast to be below average, actually quite cold, especially across Norway. Notice how cold it is there, with anomalies going down to kind of like 6 to 8 degrees or more below average. For England, for the UK, and for Ireland, it's not as cold as that, but even so, temperature anomalies are below average. France also coming out a little bit below average, but warmth looks like being pushed into the east and the southeast of Europe in the week ahead. Precipitation anomalies from the 22nd through to 30th of October, drier than average, so cool but dry, essentially, in the week ahead. Bear in mind, the change to more unsettled conditions comes after the weekend, really, where that low pressure begins to dig in. So let's have a look at the GFSM for Thursday. So on Thursday we still have this ridge across many parts of the country. That's going to be quite a warm ridge as well. It will bring a fair amount of dry weather and quite warm temperatures too. That ridge is pulling out into the middle of the Atlantic though, as this trough is starting to dig in from the northwest. So as we move through into Friday, that's when the change really takes place, as the high pressure pushes up through the middle of the Atlantic towards Greenland, the low pressure sinks in over Scandinavia, the squeeze of the ice bars between the two turns the winds to the north. You see there are kinks in those isobars telling us that there are disturbances and cold fronts, the areas of low pressure within the flow, that just enhancing the risk of showers. And of course, as the cold air continues to dig in into weekend, those showers might turn increasingly wintry. That's how things are looking on Saturday. This is a very unstable northerly wind that's pushing down across the country. You'll notice again kinks in the ice bars. There's a system there, there's some sort of system just here, probably another one around here as well. Unstable northerly winds bring showers across the country. Now to low levels, those showers will probably mostly fall as rain and around the coast, but inland and particularly in the north and over high ground, those showers will probably turn readily to snow actually by Saturday. So even down to low levels across parts of Scotland and North East England, I won't be ruling out the chance of snow. Elsewhere, it's a much more marginal situation. But even in the south, I wouldn't rule out a few flakes of sleet or wet snow potentially turning up if these showers become heavy enough with a bit of evaporative cooling and the cold upper air temperatures that we've got going on at this point as well. It may be enough to see a few flakes even in the south on Saturday. Saturday will be an unusually cold day for October. There's the wind coming in from the north or from the northeast. These are the upper air temperatures. You see the -5 isotherm is covering most parts of the country. That's one of the minimum requirements to get snow. That's unusual to see that in October. And these are the thickness lines. So again, these are reflecting temperatures within the atmosphere. We've got the 528 line, the blue line there, actually clearing the country. So again, this is genuinely cold Arctic air that is moving down across the country. Quite unusual, to say the least, for October to push that 528 thickness line through the country. I've talked about these lines before. So the green line here, the 546 line, that's kind of like autumn. If you're within that line, you're going to be in autumnal conditions. The lemon-coloured line, this one just here, is the 564 line. Now that's summer. So you see summer is now pushed way away from us. It's down in kind of like North Africa, in the eastern part of the Mediterranean. We won't be seeing that line, or probably won't be seeing that line again until we get to around May or June. And then this blue line, the 528 line, that is winter. And by the way, the dark blue line up here, the 510 line, that's severe cold. So you remember when we had the beast from the east in March, we did actually bring in the 510 line, thickness line into the UK, which is very unusual. We don't get the 510 line very often, particularly from the east. So when you have that, you've got sub-zero maxima, and it's going to be freezing cold when you get the 510 line. Rare visitor to the UK. But the 528 line is kind of like one of the minimum requirements that we look for snow. And again, that's pushed through the country on Saturday, 27th of October. This is a genuinely potent Arctic northerly wind that we've got coming up here. And as I said, it's quite unusual and usually cold for October. That takes us into Sunday, and again the winds in from the north and the northeast. Will be another cold day on Sunday. When we get through the start of next week and we start to build up this ridge, you'll notice we're beginning to get a bit of high pressure building over Scandinavia. We've got the ridge out to the Atlantic as well, as this low pressure from the Atlantic is trying to bring milder winds back in off the Atlantic. And of course, this high pressure over Scandinavia is trying to keep us in a cold, sort of easterly type flow. So what happens is that these low pressures come up against this high pressure over Scandinavia as we're moving towards day 10. We're quite a long way out now. This is Halloween, 31st of October, with high pressure over Scandinavia, low pressure in the Atlantic. Low pressure coming up against that high pressure, but it is having a real battle to get through. So this is bringing relatively mild air, actually, by the end of October, and also quite a lot of heavy rain. But only very slight adjustment would see this low pressure sliding away to our south, and we would be under easterly winds with an area of high pressure. That is day 10. It's the 1st of November, and you'll notice we've got quite a lot of blocking up to our north, so that looks quite interesting with low pressure over the country. Again, the jet stream's doing something like that, so technically we're on the cold side of the jet, but it won't be that cold because we actually have quite a lot of mild air revolving around that area of low pressure. But these are very unusual patterns, I have to say, for sort of late October into November. In the more extended range, we do actually build this high pressure back from the north. So this takes us into the 3rd of November. We've took that low pressure away from us, moved it down towards Italy. High pressure's ridging in from the Atlantic and going to the north as well. We're in a northeasterly wind, so it's pretty cold through the first week of November, probably with quite a bit of frost and fog. That's how the very end of the GFS run looks. It's Wednesday the 7th of November, and we're having a go at getting that ridge back to the north again. So this could be shaping up to be quite a cold November, certainly quite a cold start to November. Did jam a Friday on Friday, and the outlook from the JMA and the CFS did look really quite cold, to say the least. And we are seeing that within the GFS, certainly since Scotland of the GFS. Anyway, temperatures are looking like this over the next few days. So Wednesday, nice and mild across most parts of the country. Temperatures to the mid-teens for many of us, maximum around 17 down in the south. That's pretty good for the second half of October. Bit lower on Thursday, but still generally quite mild. Temperatures in the south 13 or 14. Dropping into single digits though in the north, just a sign of what's to come, because we get through to Friday where we're barely getting into double figures then. In the south we're just about scraping 10 or 11, but really from the Midlands northwards we're stuck into single digits, and it looks cold across Scotland in particular. That's Saturday's maximum temperatures. They do look very cold, these temperatures, for October. So in the north, I mean Scotland, Northern England, just 2s, 3s, 4s. England, Wales, kind of light through Wales and Midlands, 5s and 6s. Down in the far south and southeast, 7s and 8s. But these temperatures are way below average for the time of the year. And another pretty cold day being forecast across the country on Sunday as well. So I mean, it's all relative. This is a very potent northerly for October. The temperatures themselves are dramatically low. We're not talking about sub-zero maxima and blizzards, but it is unusual to get it that chilly this early in the season. ECWF looking like this. High pressures out in the Atlantic as we go through to the end of the week. We pull down those northerly winds, so a real northerly blast there over the weekend. Going to be a cold final weekend to October, to say the least. Start of next week, there's that high pressure building up over Scandinavia, or having a go at building up over Scandinavia anyway, with the low pressure out in the Atlantic. And then as we go through to the middle of next week, actually looking unsettled. We've still got that high pressure in over Scandinavia, blocking things out. Got low pressure in the middle of the Atlantic. Flow of jets doing something a bit like that. So around this low pressure, there's probably quite a bit of wet weather, and we're also dragging up the air from a southerly southeasterly direction. Technically, I suspect the upper air temperatures are quite mild as we're heading towards day 10, but it could actually be rather cold and wet, really. That may be the upshot of the weather through much of next week. Quite a bit of rain, and temperatures, although the upper air temperatures could be quite mild with those southerly southeasterly winds, actually it may feel quite chilly under that dank weather. It's really the blocking pattern that's interesting though, and unusual for this time of year, and it does continue the theme of blocking that we've been in pretty much on and off since February, when we had that southern stratospheric warming. GEM, again, we find we get these northerly winds pushing down across the country at the end of the week and into the weekend. Actually going a bit northeasterly with the wind by the time we get through to Sunday. You will notice that northerly wind. There's that high pressure building up over Scandinavia on Monday, turning wind into an easterly. And then as we go into more extended range, it looks unsettled and gradually moving low pressure in from off the Atlantic. So more in way of rain coming through next week. Next week could be the wettest week that we've had for quite a long while, actually, with these areas of low pressure meandering around the UK. Could have quite a bit of wet weather as we go through into the start of November. Finally, just have a look at CFSV2 for the next month. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period takes us from the 22nd through to 28th of October, with above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, below average heights to the northeast. The flow on the jet is doing something a bit like that. So we're under high pressure and we're pulling increasingly so winds down from a northerly direction. That's week 2. It's the 29th of October to the 4th of November. Below average heights through central parts of Europe, above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, and again we pull down those winds from a northerly direction. That looks quite cold through the opening days of November. Week 3 is the 5th to the 11th of November. Below average heights then to the west of the country. Quite a strong blocking signal up over North Pole, you'll notice. But at this point, we're probably bringing quite a wet weather from the Atlantic and milder sort of southerly type winds. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 12th to the 18th of November. High pressure increasingly sinking into Scandinavia, with low pressure out to the west of the UK. The westerlies are moving in from off the Atlantic, but this high pressure over Scandinavia is trying to bring us those easterly winds. That looks quite threatening, that area of high pressure that's blocking over Scandinavia and going up to the Arctic. We would, at that point, be at risk of bringing in some really quite cold air from the east. Temperature anomalies in the week ahead, this going from the 2nd to the 28th of October, forecast to be below average, a cold and average week coming up. And then week 2 is also colder than average, so a couple of really quite chilly weeks coming up, to say the least. Notice many central parts of Europe are also looking really very cold from the 29th of October to the 4th of November. The 5th to the 11th of November sees a change. It goes a bit milder than average then, above average temperature anomalies, and that continues into week 4 as well. So as it turns more unsettled, it also turns milder from the start of November. But bear in mind, high pressure is not all that far away to our north. And then precipitation, the coming week is drier than average from 22nd, 28th of October. Still drier on average in week 2, but not as dry as week 1. So gradually beginning to turn a little bit more unsettled even in week 2, 29th of October to 4th of November. And then week 3 does look unsettled with above average precipitation there. And we also hinted above average precipitation in week 4, the 12th to the 18th of November as well. So it's all looking quite interesting, I have to say, as we're going into the end of October and the start of November. Main thing to focus on at the moment is this potent northerly wind, and it certainly isn't impossible. You might see snow watch turning up at some point in the next couple of days for the weekend for this northerly wind. That would be the earliest I've ever had to do snow watch, going back to 2012 when we launched Gav's Weathervids. Never done a snow watch in October, so it is possible you'll be seeing snow watch later in the week. We're going to get this northerly wind, and then beyond that, looks like next week turning increasingly unsettled with low pressure around the country, but it's not a clear-cut westerly pattern next week. We've got high pressure trying to get going over Scandinavia within the cold air, and that's going to sort of block the progress of those areas of low pressure. So they may just meander around the UK and Western Europe through next week, bring quite a bit of rain. We might get our wettest week for a really long time across most parts of the country next week. And temperatures, I think they will recover, but certainly not overly mild during the opening days of November. And we may find ourselves going back into colder conditions again, actually, at some point through that first week of November. So things start to get quite interesting, and we'll be keeping you updated through the course of the week in terms of this northerly and then what follows beyond that. Come back this evening when we're going to have a very quick look at Halloween and Bonfire Night, which is now within the time frame of the extended GFS. But at 24 minutes, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.